that people don't know because they're not on TV, you and I got to build their credibility up. Talk about how well they're doing. Talk about them having 100% of the information. Talk about they're an executive in the company and they're taking time away from their busy schedule to share with us this amazing opportunity. So I want you to listen very closely to the expert. Can we do this? Can we do this?
Yes.
Now understand also, at the end of the presentation, we got to sort the people in the room. Now, what I mean by sorting people in the room is you've got to ask them a question. At the end of the presentation, I go up to someone, the music goes on, they break the room up, I go over someone that's actually paying attention or shaking their head during the presentation, and I say, do you see an opportunity here? Yeah. Do you want to take advantage of it? Yeah. I've got some questions. Great. Now, some people don't need all their questions answered that night. Some people are ready to go. Get the actual rep agreement out, and I start showing them how to fill it out. I go, well, listen, last name, Smith, right? S-M, don't look up. I-T, right? Now, if they stop you at that point, they're going to stop you and go, well, listen, I've got some questions. Great, what are your questions? Now, I say things like, well, listen, if I answer all your questions tonight, are you going to get started tonight? They go, well, no, I'm not going to get started. Good, well, then we want to make sure you come to training. Is everybody clear on that? Back to curiosity. Well, how are we going to sell these video phones? Or how do we get people out of cell phone contracts? Or how does DirecTV let you do it? Well, I can explain that to you tonight if you're going to get started tonight. Well, I'm not prepared to. Well, why don't you just come out to training on Saturday? Is everybody clear on that? Why? Curiosity. If you explain it all and answer all their questions and they're not getting started tonight, what's the value of coming to training? You gotta push everything off on training. I let people know that's a great question. That's what training's about. We're gonna show you how to build a team on training on Saturday. We're gonna show you how to get customers on Saturday. We're gonna introduce you to some success stories in your local area on Saturday. You've got a broken record. You got back to reading the script. Practicing. How many of you have ever seen a Broadway play? Now, how many of you that you went to, whether it be Broadway or even Las Vegas, they have some great events out there. How many of you have ever been to one of those plays or one of those shows or performances and you walk out of there like, that was unbelievable? I mean, it was like they moved you. It was so powerful. Do you realize that they do it twice a day, 6 days a week? The same thing, but they are phenomenal at doing the same thing. They are exceptional at doing the same thing. See, that's what you and I have to get great at. Meaning at the end of the meeting, we got to start sorting the gaps. We got to start figuring out who's ready to get started, who's got some questions, and who's not interested. If they're not interested, do not convince. There's nothing worse than seeing a representative convince people. I mean, it's so good, why are you selling it so hard? If it's so great, why are you trying to convince somebody? If they're not interested, ask for referrals. Ask for referrals. Try to make them a customer and thank them for their time. If they don't want to be a customer and they don't want to give you any referrals, ask them what color jacket they wore so that you can get it for them. Right? Put the chip down. Time to go. And the reality is, that we'll get that later. The reality is, here, the concept is very, very powerful. That is PBR after PBR after PBR after PBR after PBR after PBR. And you'll become phenomenal at it. But you've got to understand that you've got to get great at every single little component along the way. I talked about rating yourself. I talked about where you are at presenting, at preparing, at training, at coaching, at prospecting, at sorting the room. See, I think about gold. Gold doesn't lay on the surface of the ground, yes or no? Gold is deep in the ground. You got to dig for the gold. You're going to dig for the gold, not an opportunity. It's not going to be laying on the ground. You got to get in there. You got to find who the gold is. You got to find where the gold is. Here's the problem. We're all miners in this room. Here's what we do in the beginning stages of the business. Is you talk about the dirt. You talk about the dirt. Man, Bill wasn't interested. Dirt. Sue wasn't interested. Dirt. My cousin wasn't interested. Dirt. Let's talk about the gold. Let's talk about the ones that did say yes. Let's talk about the ones that are coming on Saturday. Let's talk about the ones that did show some interest. Don't talk about the dirt. Are we going to have to shovel some dirt to find some gold? Isn't that normal? Isn't that just the way it is? They call it prospecting. Yes or no? You're going to have to go through some dirt. Here's what I'll share. I promote Saturday. Man, I am sold out to Saturday. I'm sold out to training. If I'm going to close someone, I'm going to close them on training. I let people know I can only work with trained people. All your questions are going to be answered on Saturday. You see value here, wait till you see Saturday. It's unbelievable. We're going to teach you all the techniques and the insights and all the stuff you and I need to know to have a massive organization, but it has to be shown to you at training. Now, as you do home meeting, 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 you're going to create momentum. Here's the problem. We get in this business without understanding that 90% of your paycheck is determined by what you do your first year. What you do, not what your team does. See, that's the misconception of our industry. When people get into it, you get 6 or 7 reps and all of a sudden you got the manager hat on. You got management. Imagine you started McDonald's and you were Ray Kroc and you started the McDonald's franchise and you had 6 stores and all of a sudden you just became the manager. We got 6 stores. Man, I gotta just make sure those 6 stores are open on time and those 6 stores have the fryer ready to go and those 6 stores have the drive-up window ready to go. What did he do? Store after 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 store. You gotta think like that. 90% of your check will be determined by what you do. You know what drives me crazy is when I talk to someone in their first year, they're already talking about, man, my group ain't doing it, my group ain't doing that. What are you doing? Where's your list at? Where's your PBR? How many people did you talk to? What did you do? See, here's what I'll share with you is you've got to become the example. See, I am a big believer in reading. I read, I listen to CDs. See, I've been a student of successful people since I've walked in the door of this opportunity. I've studied, I've watched, I've listened, I've learned, I've taken notes. And as you read and you look, I found a story and it was about St. Francis. St. Francis said to his young monk, he said, I want to take you into the town, into the village, and we're going to go preaching tomorrow together. And this monk was so excited because he had St. Francis to go into the village with. And here was someone that has been his idol and his mentor over the years, studied under him. And the next day they went off into the village. And as they went off into the village, St. Francis went down the alleyways, he went down the roadways, and he was taking care of the sick. And he was taking care of the homeless. And he was taking care of the helpless. And on the way back, the young monk said, we didn't even preach today, because we preached all day. We preached with our example. So you've got to understand, your team is looking for the example. You've got to be their example. You've got to be the person out there out recruiting your organization. You've got to be the person more excited than anybody else on your team, and you can't expect anybody to do your work for you, because there will be a day, if you are the example long enough, that 90% of your paycheck will come from your group and 10% will come from what you do. But that day isn't going to be your first year. That day is not going to be your second year. It's going to take time, and it's going to take energy. But here's what I'll share with you. My mentor told me this, and I never, ever, ever doubted him for a minute. He said, Patrick, it'll be worth it. He said, it'll be worth it. And when I think about the lifestyle, when I think about what we're able to do with the SVP income in this company, see, I wrote down some goals, and I had some dream board. I had everything I've ever wanted on my dream board, from the house